Welcome to the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. I'm Mike Davis, and I am here to talk about everything hunting, hunting land, and the great outdoors in both Virginia and North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Virginia Carolina Deer Tracts podcast. And today I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Jason Whitlow, team member from Seek One. How you doing, Jason?
I'm good. How about you?
Man, I'm doing all right. I really
Awesome.
do appreciate you taking time to spend with me today. I know it's got to be getting to be a busy, ramped up
Yeah.
time of year for you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been running a million miles an hour for the last 2 months probably.
Yeah,
So really, honestly, I tell people it slows down. Once the season starts, it slows down because
yeah,
I can just focus on one place, and I don't have to be in 3 different states every week. It
yeah.
seems
All
like.
the leg work is done.
Yes, yes, yeah. My season starts. I mean, I tell people a big part of our hunt is just getting the permission, getting access. My season, in my mind, really starts in June, and then it runs through, and that's the heavy part, June to September, into September, and then once seasons come in, it slows down a lot, and then it's just you know you just got to kill them at that point.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Well, then you can focus on doing what you
Yep.
love.
Exactly, exactly.
So for those of you that don't know, and if you don't know, I'm not really sure if you're watching this podcast, but Seek One is obviously a hunting show, YouTube phenomenon. A lot of ways to describe it, but they really kind of um, got known as kind of taking suburban or urban hunting to the
Yep,
next level.
yep.
So I felt like I needed to throw that out there for a couple people who might not
Absolutely.
know when you're talking about doing the leg work in June
Yeah,
and stuff, they may not know what you're talking about.
absolutely.
Um, but for those of you that also listen to the podcast, you know that I spend a lot of time focusing on the neat stuff and the just the great outdoor opportunities and the
Yeah,
great outdoor people that we have here in Virginia and Carolina. And Jason certainly fits that profile as a
I
fellow
appreciate it.
Virginian.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Love Virginia. Born and raised. So, and I take pride in it because I don't, there's not a lot of big personalities that have come out of Virginia. You got Kip Campbell, a
Yeah,
couple other folks, but you look at like these states like Georgia, some of these other southeastern states, they've produced a lot of big personalities, especially a state like Georgia.
yeah.
I take pride in being from Virginia and kind of representing Virginia.
Well, we certainly take pride in having you represent us as well,
I
and
appreciate it.
that's another reason I wanted to just kind of shine the spotlight on you to
Yeah. I
celebrate
appreciate that.
that.
Yes, sir.
Um, I know you mentioned that you were born and raised in Virginia,
Yep.
but how did you start? I guess we can go as far back as how did you get started in
Yeah.
hunting?
Yeah.
And then I'd be really curious to see what drove you to make I guess, switch or deep
Yeah.
dive into the suburban hunting.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up outside of Richmond in a small town called New Kent. And that's all. People really don't bow hunt there. There's guys that do, but it's not very popular. Most people don't touch the woods until muzzleloader season, and then you got dog season, which is everybody's in the woods. So I grew up. We did some muzzleloader hunting, but most of it was just dog, running dogs or hunting properties near hunt clubs that where dogs would push through. So pretty much my whole childhood was mainly just dog hunting. And then I went off to college, and I think might have been 19, and I bought a crossbow. I was up in Lynchburg, Virginia, and so it's more central, a little bit less dog hunting in Lynchburg area. And I bought a crossbow, got into bow hunting, did a year crossbow, and then in 2019 I bought a compound, and then was sitting around the house. I just bought this compound bow, and I thought, man, I need to go find a place where I can hunt. And it was September, so I remember it was early September, and I was really itching to go hunt with this compound I just bought. And so I started looking, and I found out there's urban archery season. So there's a couple small towns nearby that did it, and so I started door knocking. And got permission on a place, and it was like I think it was 7 acres, and it was full of deer, and that was the whole year I hunted that one property, and I actually killed a decent buck out there. But yeah, no, that's how I got into the urban stuff. That was kind of the small part of it, and then it really exploded when we moved to Ohio.
Yeah. So, um, when you stop and think about it, 2019 sounds like it was a long time ago,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's really not. So,
No,
you haven't been doing this that long in
no.
the grand scheme of things.
Nope. No, I've started really compound bow hunting in 2019. I hunted with a crossbow for a year out in Nelson County with a hunt club there. I hunted with a crossbow there for a year and then ditched the crossbow and got the compound, and then that's when I got into the urban stuff. And yeah, no, but 2019 was the first year that I really bow hunted and killed a nice buck then, and I've just kind of gone on ever since.
Well, that is, man, that's quite a success record that you have had in a short bit of time.
Yeah, I've been
So,
lucky for sure.
that's quite remarkable. That really is, especially for someone who's been hunting four times as long as that. Haven't had anywhere near the success. So I'm not sure if you're an inspiration or a depression right now. But I'm curious, going now, now that you've kind of got your footing into the suburban hunting when you
Yeah,
went to Ohio,
yeah.
at what point did you said, man, this is all I want to do? And then
Yeah.
how did that connection to Seek One happen?
Yeah, so we moved to Ohio. My wife got into medical school. She's from Lynchburg, so we got a medical school in Ohio. We moved up there. It would have been the summer of 2020, and I still wasn't. I mean, I was doing the urban stuff, but I was also doing some public land stuff. I was doing some. We had a lease in Southern Ohio, so we, kind of were sitting around, and I actually went just put some cameras out on some public up there. There was no public really close. Like it was an hour plus long drive, and that public wasn't known as good public. So we had a family up there, and we kind of were down and out, and we were watching these deer in these parks near the house or near the apartment, and I couldn't believe like just I mean these deer. I mean they were nice deer. They weren't as big as the ones that I've killed since, but they were still nice deer. They were 130, 140-inch deer. And being from Virginia, you just don't see those that often. And so we were there, and I just couldn't believe it. I was looking at it, like, this is crazy. I got to figure out if I can hunt around here. And so it turns out you can. There's all these processes to hunting some of these cities. So I started talking to people and talking to some of these police departments, asking if they knew of any places that wanted to allow for it. And one day we were driving down the road and looking for deer one night in the city, and I told my wife, I said, "Look over in that field. There were some small bucks there a couple of days ago." She looks out in this field and says, "There's a huge buck." I said, "Oh my gosh!" So we turn around. I could see it from way off, and I still got the cell phone picture of this deer, and it looked like it had a drop tine. And I just remember that thing was huge. And so the next day, I went and I knocked on the guy's door. He didn't live on the property; he lived a few minutes away. It was a vacant property next to this field where we saw this deer, and he said, "Yeah." And that's where it started. I put a camera out, and wasn't really running many cell cameras back then. It was just normal. This is 2020, running normal SD card cameras, and this deer's in there's like 100. It's like 170-inch buck with a drop tine, 150-inch buck with a drop tine, and then does everywhere. And that's where it really took off from there. And that's when it pretty much completely went urban hunting. I guess I still wasn't 100%, but I kind of really committed. Like I was something I was interested in doing just because it seemed like I had a bit of a talent actually getting the properties. And then, I enjoyed it. And not spending money either. That was a thing. We were doing this lease in Southern Ohio, and I was hunting deer on this lease that were 130, 140-inch deer. The occasional 150 would come through, and they've killed some really nice deer on that place since, including one, I believe they've killed one over 200 over there. But I was paying all this money to hunt down there when right next to my house, I had, 170-inch deer, and I wasn't paying anything. And I was a broke college kid at that time. My wife was in medicine. We didn't have a ton of money. So I was like, well, let's just do this. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it.
I had a similar experience just in terms of thinking about hunting somewhere else and close to home.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it's when I was living in Lynchburg,
Yeah.
and I was hunting where I live now, which is roughly about an hour and a half ride from Lynchburg.
Yeah.
Got up in the wee hours of the morning, drove an
Oh
hour
yeah.
and a half, hunted all day, drove home after dark, and of course, hunted. I saw a couple scrubby things
Yep.
and nothing to get excited about. But I remember I was turning at the intersection to go onto the road where my house was.
Yeah.
And my house was like literally the third house down, typical suburb neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as soon as I made that turn, my headlights shine in the backyard of a house across the road.
Yeah.
And there's this, probably with the mass on it, I'd probably say it was mid 140s,
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
mainframe eight, just
Yeah.
right there at the tree line, nosing the branches
Yep.
ahead. And I'm just like, that thing, he was literally
Unbelievable.
100 yards from my house.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so
A
I
thousand percent.
certainly relate to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Now, were you aware of Seek One at the time in 2020 when you started getting
Yeah.
committed to the?
Yeah. I knew who they were. I'd watch some of their stuff. You might even consider me a fan of them for sure. Yeah, I definitely watched their stuff. I knew Lee was, knew all those guys. And so, and that's me living in Ohio at the time. That's kind of where Lee came into play. It was, I mean, I think Sequon was really starting to take off. I mean, they had already were big, but they were really starting to take off then. And so I think you probably know some of these guys. Most people that listen to this podcast will know about this deer, but there was a buck in the city of Richmond that everyone knows about. They got poached, the Hollywood Cemetery buck. Well, that
Yeah,
buck was at his biggest in 2020.
yeah,
And when there's a deer like that that gets photographed so much, a lot of people will send it to Lee, and and so Lee had seen pictures of this deer, and you didn't have to get it sent to you to know about this deer. I mean, this deer was everywhere; it was all over social media. And so Lee had gotten his pictures, and he's talking to his buddy uh Slade about it, and he's like, "Man, this deer in Richmond, man, I've seen this thing everywhere. That's a giant." And I had just met Slade from a TikTok. I posted a video of me passing a deer that I should not have passed, but it went somewhat not really viral. But I mean, I think it got like 60,000 views, and Slade was one of them. And so we start talking through that. But Lee starts telling Slade about this deer, and Slade goes, "Well, I just started talking to this guy named Jason who's from there and knows all about that deer." So Lee, Slade put us in a group chat, and we started talking, and essentially, Lee had thought about maybe, going to knock for the deer. He knew where it was. It wasn't a secret that it was everywhere where that deer was. But he was more interested in kind of what the sentiment about the deer was. Like, is that deer kind of a little too known? Like, is it a little too close with people? He does try to have some, we all do. We try to have some bit of, what's the right word? Kind of just understanding that, not every deer needs to be shot. Some of these deer, they're maybe a little too tight, and that was one of them. And I told him, I said, "Yeah, I wouldn't, dude. If you want to get raked over the coals, go shoot that thing. You'll be in all kinds of
yeah,
stuff with people." So I was like, it wasn't worth it. But he was like, "Well, I won't mess with that deer, but uh, I'd love to hunt Ohio." And I was like, "Well, you more than welcome to come up here." And so that's how we met. And he said, "Well, you tell me a place that you've wanted to hunt, a city that you wanted to hunt for while you tell me a city you want to hunt, and I'll go knock, and whatever I get you can hunt too." That's how it was. He said, "I don't want to hunt one of your spots. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to go get my own thing, and whatever I get, you're good to go too." And so that's what he did. And he went and got a couple spots, and he killed a buck. And believe it was 2021. That was 2021 when that happened. So that's his first ever Ohio video. That's how we met. He was with me up there.
man. I'm
So
glad you brought up the Hollywood buck because I was actually going to
yeah.
ask you about that.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's probably Virginia's maybe its most infamous buck.
I would think so. Yeah.
It was certainly in those ranks before it got poached, and
Yeah.
I'd say it's certainly in its ranks now.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask if there was ever, discussions
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
strategy like,
Yep.
hey, we this is something we want to do, but
Lee had known about it, and I think we kind of decided it was like, this is not, I guess the word I was looking for is discretion. We use discretion when we're talking about some of
yeah,
these. Um, I've given up really big deer just because there's compromising photos, or these deer are just too tight. They're just not a good area. We try to have some discretion, and that was one that we had some discretion with, and kind of just said, no, it's too known. It's too close to people. It's too much. And so, yeah, no, that there was some. And I'd seen the deer in person. I have an office, own it, insurance office in Richmond. So it was 4 miles from where my office was. So I could go out there, and I actually saw him one day. He's so I think that one of the people was putting corn out for him, and you drive right up to the thing, and he's sitting there eating corn. And there's three other bucks, really nice bucks, bedded in the yard with him. And
Yeah.
it's a cool deer, man. That deer was incredible. I believe that deer was a state record that first year when everybody started sending pictures around in 2020.
Yeah. He was a freak
He
for
was
sure.
pushing a state record. That deer was nuts.
Yeah,
But
he was.
ultimately,
But
yeah,
I think y'all made the right decision, though. I
yeah,
think that that deer carried so much. It
yeah,
had basically had its own fan club.
for
So,
sure. It just,
I think y'all made the right call for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And
I would
but
agree, especially looking back after what that guy did.
yeah,
And if anyone would have killed that deer legally, it still would have been just a cluster, man. People would have been all over him.
yeah.
So
But well, that's kind of neat how you met Lee.
yeah, yep,
When was this kind of always a goal for you to kind of like, like I love hunting and man,
yeah.
I'd really like to find a way to get my foot in the door in the hunting
Sure.
industry somehow. Was that always your plan?
I would say it was always my plan. I definitely had, I think most people have these ideas of how can they do something like that and make money, whether it's a podcast or, filming and creating a channel. And there was times where I would say, yeah, I would love to film and try and do it and create a channel. So there was definitely times where I did think about that. And I think most people have that consume the content because they think, man, if there's a way I could do this. I tried it a couple times. I would try to film, and every time I tried, it was just like, this is not. I'm not doing this. I'd do it one or two hunts, and I go, man, this sucks. I don't want to do this at all. I'd rather have somebody else film me, and that'd be fine. But if I got to film myself, which you're gonna have to, just yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say it was necessarily something I thought would happen, but I mean, I thought about it just probably like most people had. How could you make a living doing something that you love? And that's actually why I got into taxidermy. One of the reasons I got into taxidermy. So
Yeah, I was actually gonna get into that part of it too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I was gonna ask how, what is it that inspired you to get into the
yeah,
taxidermy? I
yeah.
didn't know if it was kind of a family connection
No,
that got you
no.
started. You just so eat up with it. You
Yep.
wanted to do that too.
I thought I was like, yeah. I mean, I think that the hunting industry is made up of so many different parts, and I believe taxidermists are part of that. I mean, that's a hunting industry in my mind,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to know, well, what's a way. I had when my father passed away, when my mother and father passed away, I got the insurance agency, and so I'd gotten this business, and it was successful. It was already successful prior to me. I didn't do anything to make it more successful or less successful, but I'd gotten this thing and that was cool. And, it was a paycheck when I was 19 years old. It was nice, or 20 years old. It was nice to have a paycheck coming in when I had no parents left, and you had your insurance paid for and all that stuff. So that was nice. But I wanted to find a way where I could do something that one kind of was, I could prove to people like, hey, I'm not just a kid who's going to get something and ride on that his whole life. Like I'm going to work hard and build something myself and put my name to it. But also I wanted to know how could I work with other hunters and kind of work in the hunting industry in some way. And so I was always kind of inspired, like I would say inspired, but just I loved really good deer mounts. And so I figured, why not do that? And yeah, and it's it's not that complicated to get into. You just got to find somebody that'll help you and work
Yeah.
with you. So yeah, that was the inspiration behind it.
Now, is it easier to work on your own animals, or do you put more pressure on yourself for perfection?
No, I for me it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy working on my own stuff. It's I because I have control over it too. When you kill these, a great deer and not everybody. I mean, very few people don't kill. They don't kill. Very few people kill big deer year after year. Most people kill a couple nice deer in their life, and that's not because they're not as good at hunting or whatever. A lot of people just don't have the time. They've got a normal job. They've got families. Like they don't get to go out, so they might go out once every 10 years, and or they have one hunt every 5 to 10 years where they kill that really big deer. And so when you're handing a deer off to somebody, like you're kind of hoping and praying that it's going to be good, because even the good guys aren't always good. Like
Yeah.
there's times where it's just so it's nice to know that like if I can work on my own stuff, like I know even if there's something wrong with it, if there's a few things wrong with it, that's just me. Like I can't be mad at somebody else about it, or I
Yeah.
have the skill set to fix it if there is a few things that are off about the mount. So
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's a pretty neat skill set to
yeah,
have
it's fun. Yeah,
on
it's
top
fun.
of everything else. Is Lee and them, are they always trying to get you to, hey man, I need you to do one for me?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I do all of Lee's deer. And Lee keeps every year. He says he's not going to mount anymore, and he goes and kills a 180, and then he euros it for a little bit, and then well, and here's a funny story about him is he killed that deer Kimbo a couple years ago in Ohio, and he kept saying, he's like, I'm going to Euro mount this thing. I'm going to Euro mount this thing. I'm going to skull mount it. I said, okay. I don't believe you for 2 seconds, but okay. And I said, well, how about this? And I was getting into tax. It was my first year. This is the biggest deer he'd ever killed. And so I said, well, how about this? I said, he had some other buddies that had done them in the past for him. And that's who, so I said, let me take the cape. I said, you don't have to let me mount the deer. It sounded like at the time, it sounded like he wasn't going to mount it at all. But I said, you don't even have to mount the deer. And and if you do, you don't have to let me do it. But I said, let me take the cape. I'll send it to a tannery that way we know it's tanned at least. And then if you just don't ever do anything with it, you don't do anything with it. And he's like, no, I think I'm gonna keep it. I said, okay. And so he kept it and took it home. He took that cape home. We caped it out there and he took the cape home and put it in his freezer. And he went to Texas to go hunt. And when he got back home, his freezer went out and the cape went bad and all his meat went bad. So the Kimbo mount that I did for him is not his original cape. Yeah, he and I told him not to do that, but
Well,
he's stubborn.
I think he listens to you now.
He does. Yeah, he does. He does. So,
Well, cool. Sticking with the Seek One theme.
yeah,
And by all means, tell me if I'm getting into company secrets here.
sure.
Uh, but I'm really curious how how all of you kind of
Yeah,
get dialed in on these bucks that
yeah.
are in other states and
Sure.
stuff like that. But how do you have people that kind of give you a heads up, like, hey,
Yeah,
there's a big buck over here, y'all, that kind of thing.
sure. That does happen. I know, there's been a couple times where that's worked out for Lee, where someone said, "Hey, there is a big deer in this area." I think, he talked about it on the podcast. I want to say three of his deer on the wall maybe are like that, and he's always talked about which ones those are. I mean, people, if you go watch the videos, you know which deer those are that have kind of been tipped off to him. I've had people send me pictures of deer. There's only one I've ever knocked for that a guy told me about, and I didn't get any permission. But I've never, for me, it's always been, for the most part, it's just been knocking on doors. I mean, Pops was a random door. I mean, I knew that deer was alive. I had no clue where he was, and I had people that I knew personally that had knew where he was, and I purposely did not ask them. Me personally, I really try to kind of keep it as level as I can with everybody else, which is I'm gonna go knock on doors, and if there's a big deer there, there's a big deer there. But that was one I just randomly knocked on the door, and he was back there. In fact, I think every deer on my wall, yeah, every deer on my wall has been just, I thought the area looked good, or I knew that the area was good just from driving around and knocked on the door and got permission and killed the deer. But for for us, a big thing is, obviously trail cameras help a lot, like knowing when the deer are there, where they're at. That's a huge help. I personally will target bait states for out of state stuff, because it makes it easier to keep tabs, not necessarily to kill them, but to keep tabs. Like if you throw 50 pounds of corn out, you at least know he's there. If you're hunting in Virginia, for example, where you cannot bait, it makes it a little tougher to keep tabs on what's there, because they could be using a trail 5 yards below your camera or 5 yards above it, and you may never even see that deer.
Yeah.
So I sometimes will target some of those. I like to target those bait states. It makes it a little easier just keeping up with what's around. And
Well,
then
that certainly makes a lot of practical sense once you lay it
yeah,
out like that.
yeah. And but there's plenty of states we hunt where you can't bait. Virginia for me, Tennessee. Lee's messed with some states where you can't bait. In fact, I'm going out to the Midwest, in a state you can't bait. So it's not all bait states, but it does help. That's definitely a tactic we
Yeah.
use. At least I use.
Do you go back to a lot of the same areas year to
Yeah,
year, or
that's another thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's another thing too, man. Like I think people, they want it all now, and one of my biggest things is compounding properties. If I go to an area, I try to look ahead. I try to look ahead years, 3 years. Where do I want to be at? What states do I want to hunt in? What are the quality deer I want to kill? And so when we lived in Ohio, I only had a few places in Virginia to hunt, but I knew I'm moving to Virginia. I'm moving back. I need to start getting some stuff. So a year or two out, I started knocking on doors. I started getting permission, and that wasn't the plan. Was never to go, all right, I'm going to go in and kill 200 or 190 or 160 this year. The plan was just to get two properties, get two places, run cameras on them. If there's a big one that shows up, awesome. I'll try to kill him. but run just to understand the area and learn it. And then by the time I'm back here full time, now I've got 4 spots or 6 spots. I understand the area a little better. So that's another thing for me is I'm not necessarily looking to kill something now, but I'm getting stuff now to kill something in 2, 3 years because I'll understand the place a little better.
Yeah. Well, now that you've kind of had, some years of success at that, do you see yourself staying that type of hunter for the unforeseen future, or do you
Like
have
the urban
plans of
stuff.
like, at one day I want to get my own
Yeah.
couple hundred acres and
Yeah.
manage it, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'd love to have a farm somewhere in Bedford County area. Uh at some point. I did have a lease in Bedford. I want to say it was back in 2022. Unfortunately, it didn't work out after that year. They started to sell the property. So I'm always looking for stuff. I'm gonna go on a public land type hunt out in the Midwest this year. I have no cameras out there. I've got no connections. It's just I'm gonna go out there, and I've done this before. I'm gonna go out there and hunt public, or if I see a big deer from the road, it's one of the you can see a long ways out there. So if I
Mhm.
see a big deer from the road, I'll knock on the door. But yeah, no, I definitely want to do different stuff, but I'll always do urban to an extent, like it's at least where I'm gonna live at. Like if I'm in Virginia, like it makes a lot of sense for me still to do some urban stuff. And if maybe I've got a bigger deer in the city that year and or something like that. So yeah, I definitely will still do it. Probably forever, at least until I get too old where I don't want to mess with it anymore.
Yeah.
Which hopefully is a long time from now.
All that stuff is pretty much bow hunting, right?
Yeah, that's it. I've shot one deer with a rifle ever. And growing up I killed all my deer with shotguns, but I've only ever shot one deer with a rifle. Everything I do is bow. I very rarely pick a gun up during deer season. So not because I
Yeah,
don't want to, just can't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I saw that you picked up that old 30-30 Marlin
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I did. That's my first time. I told them we were under that tree with that bear, and I told them, I said, guys, this gun probably hadn't been shot. I wanted to shoot it beforehand, but we didn't have time. It's iron sight, so it's not like you got to sight anything in. But I was like, guys, this gun might not have ever been shot. If it has been shot, it might have been 40 or 50 years. And they're like, yeah, you're fine. Just it'll do what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that thing it laid it out pretty good. It was cool.
That was in West Virginia. Is that where you
Yeah.
were?
Yeah, they have that 7 day hunt. I know Virginia has the little I guess the 3 day hunt, but can you run dogs in that 3 day hunt? I don't know if you can for the
It
bear.
depends on you talking about the bear, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Down here where I'm at, they actually opened the bear season up quite a bit longer
Did
uh
they?
in December. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No,
but
they have a 7 day hunt out there or an 8 day hunt or something like that. My buddy's got a bunch of dogs, so
yeah,
that was a good time.
yeah, and we can hunt them the entire bow season as well.
Yes, yeah, I know we can hunt them all bow, which that's another thing, and I hate that if I had to knock anything herb, I'd love to have a place where I can go hunt if I'm hunting a deer. And most people probably think I'm gonna be crazy for saying this, but if a 300-pound black bear walks out, be able to shoot that thing would be cool. But unfortunately, I don't get a lot of bear in the city.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I got you. So, speaking of bow hunting, I'm just kind of curious what kind of setup you're running.
yeah, yeah, I've got a phase 4. So
Yeah, me
yeah,
too. Me
yeah, it's a
too.
great bow. It's a great bow. So I've
Yeah,
got the phase 4, and I'm not a big every year guy. Some guys like to switch it up every year. I don't want to do that. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to. I like to have something for 3 or 4 years because you get used to something.
yeah, you really
Um,
do.
yeah, yeah, but I'm using a phase 4. I've got what arrows am I shooting? I can't remember the arrows I'm shooting, but they're 450-ish grains. We'd actually weighed them the other day. And once everything I've used, I'm running an HHA sight this year. I've never run one before. So I've got a 3 pin. It's movable. But I'll keep it for whitetail. I'll keep it at 20, 30, 40.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, that phase 4, I love it. I just put new strings on it and everything. So it's ready to rock.
right on.
So
Yeah,
it's a
I love
great
mine
bow.
too.
It's a
Uh,
great bow.
yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned that you don't really do the self filming thing.
Yeah.
Um, that's nice.
Not a
Um,
fan of.
yeah, because I try it and I just flat out suck at it. I
Yeah,
really
it's tough,
do.
man. It's tough. And another thing too is like you got to be prepared to miss out on opportunities on
Yeah,
deer. Like I know people that do it, that have very successful channels and they miss out on opportunities on deer, every other year because they're trying to get the camera right. I it's just not me. I'm good. And thankfully Seek One, they pretty much they send out camera guys. So it works out where they send camera guys if I need one.
Yeah. I was listening to one of your other podcasts recently, and I know that I'm kind of going off on a tangent here,
Yeah,
but
you go.
I know, you guys catch a lot of flack for a lot of different things,
Yeah,
just kind of like, the typical stuff. Every time
sure.
somebody posts a big deer,
Yeah,
everybody
it's just
starts
the
screaming
nature of
high
it.
fence and all
Yep.
this kind of crap.
Yep.
But has anybody ever fussed say, oh, well, he's got his own cameraman? Of course, of course. That's one you might not hear a lot.
No, yeah, I don't hear that one a lot. No, but I'm sure there's a the thing about cameraman though too is you can get screwed pretty fast with a camera guy because you don't this kid, there might be somebody new to it that
Yeah.
they haven't hunted a lot or they're not a great, not everybody is a great hunter. And that so there are situations where they might move when they're not supposed to and spooks the deer. I haven't had that happen yet. I pray and hope to God it never does happen. It probably will.
Yeah.
But that was my big anxiety with it is you've got another guy in the stand. There's more scent. They may not hunt the way you hunt.
Yeah.
In fact my experience is they don't. Maybe they're not as careful about scent or maybe they're not as careful about this or that. And so, that's definitely a part of it that gets you a little anxious.
Yeah. Now, do you get the same cameraman all the time to where you can develop,
Yeah.
that kind of that that
Yeah.
unspoken communication?
Yeah. No, I haven't. I know Lee has a guy that he loves to use for camera, but you don't. It definitely switches because a lot of these guys are working. It's not just they're not just employed by Seek One. They might have their own media company or they might work for another media company that has contracts with these people. So they might be filming John Dudley in Iowa one day, and then they're filming, or one week, and then they're filming me in Virginia the next week, and then they're filming Lee and Tiffany in Iowa the next week. So you get all kinds of different people. I do have, I'm starting to grow relationships with a couple of them that are good, and it's just I think that's a time thing.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it really
It
does.
helps though if you have a guy and there's people that do have their guy. Like
Yeah.
Levi Morgan's a pretty good example of that. He's got his brother, and that's his guy.
Yeah.
He's films all of his stuff.
Yeah. So
And
they had a different level of communication before they
exactly,
ever even started that
and
process.
exactly, and his brother's probably just as good as hunting as Levi is. It's just his brother's not the one pulling the trigger; he's the one filming it. So when you have that, I mean, there's a big advantage to that because it's almost like you don't have a camera guy in the woods with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it all looks very easy on the screen,
yeah,
but when you think about it, you're right. You got that second silhouette up in the tree.
yep,
You got that
yep,
that that second level of motion.
yeah,
The scent control, the
yep,
noise.
yeah, absolutely,
You
man.
always hear them. You always hear them whispering.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got him in frame.
that's the
Shoot.
thing too.
I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm
you
like,
gotta do that.
yeah, yeah. Sounds kind of loud on here. I think the deer can hear you.
It was, man, and the other thing, it makes it really difficult for us. Something we really deal with that most people don't is you're talking to these people that are letting you hunt. They don't really know you. They're or especially like where I killed Pops, for example. That was the first year I hunted that property. These people didn't know me from Adam, outside of the fact they just gave me permission to hunt. Well, now I got another guy. And so I'm trying to make it seem like, hey, this like I don't you can trip people out because now you're walking in with two people. They
Right.
don't know you and they definitely don't know this other person. So there's that wrinkle to it as well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And I do want to obviously I want to circle back to
Yeah,
Pops here in just a minute.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But before we get into that, I guess
Yeah.
for the younger generation, I guess that's watching you now,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
looking up to you,
Yeah.
that they're sitting around going, man, I want to do that, right? I
Yeah.
want to get into that.
Sure.
What advice would you give them?
Learn how to run a camera. I tell this to people all the time. I get so many guys that will message me and they go, how do I get into the hunting industry? And I don't know that I'm the best person to ask that question to because I kind of just genuinely lucked into it. And there's always that chance. You never know where life takes you. You never know who it puts you in front of. You never know what God has planned for you. But if you're intentionally trying, you're saying, how am I going to break into this and create a name for myself? Learn how to run a camera, learn how to get, save up for a really nice DSLR camera, learn that thing in and out, learn how to run it, get some of these really good editing softwares and learn how to use them and become an expert at that. And if you can do that, you become valuable because now these hunting companies are always looking for guys to film. They're always looking for quality filmers and quality editors too. I hear it all the time. I need to find a guy to edit this video. I need a guy to film me hunt. So that's a way where you can have a skill set that these people can use. And then you get into it and maybe you're filming your own videos or your buddy or something, or you reached out to these people and you can send them your work. And next thing you know, one of them says, come out here and film me for 3 days.
Yeah.
And you break in. I mean, the kid who I use now a lot for my Virginia stuff, I can't even think my buddy Tristan, who runs a big YouTube channel, I think he reached out to Tristan. He knew how to run a camera. He edits. He was going to school for it. And he reached out to Tristan and said, hey, I'm at Liberty University in Lynchburg. I'd love to film you. And Tristan took him up on it and used him. And now he has a contract with Seek One. He's got a contract with other people to work with, and do filming and stuff. And that's really how you can break into it. And I think, all you gotta do is just be willing to learn and figure it out. And then Michael Waddell I know it's going long, but Michael Waddell talked about it on Rogan's podcast. Michael Waddell I want to say he started filming for Realtree, and then he was a turkey caller. He started calling turkeys for him. And then before you know it, the dude's in front of the camera. He's one of the biggest personalities, in the world of hunting. And he didn't just jump straight on a TV screen. It took time. So don't expect to be the man. You gotta do some stuff first, and then eventually you will be that guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I interviewed Kenneth Lancaster from the Given Right
Yeah.
a couple months back before he came to the Virginia Outdoor Show, and that's exactly how he got his start.
Yeah.
He got to know Will Primos from the local
Yep.
archery shop,
That's right.
and Will needed a camera guy,
Yeah.
and came to Kenneth, and that's how he got started
That's
in the
right. Yeah.
industry. So
You
exactly
never
right.
know, man. And if you have that's the one skill set where I can look at it and go, if you can really run a camera and you know how to edit a video, a quality edit, you could probably break into it. I wouldn't say easily, but it's a lot less hard than starting your own YouTube channel and being the guy in front of the camera, because there's a lot of guys doing that now. There's a lot of people doing
Yeah.
that. It's a competitive world. And really only the top 1% of the 1% are making enough money to live off of doing that.
Yeah, it's I've had that conversation with
Yeah.
several people,
Yeah.
about whether this digital age,
Yeah.
it's been a blessing and a curse, like most
Yes.
things.
Yep.
And that is one of the things, is that the social media.
It's
I mean,
huge.
it's just saturated.
It is. It's
There's just so
oversaturated.
much content.
I
There's
know.
just so many people, and
It's
I
crazy.
mean, there's a lot of them that are they're great, and I haven't
Yeah.
even I have no idea who they are.
No, I know.
I don't have
I
time
know.
to. I don't have
You
time.
don't have time to figure it out. I know
Right?
you'll see guys there's guys now that are getting, 100 to 200,000 views of video, and they got 15,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers, which is a great number, but it's not enough where these companies are going to maybe give you some money to where you can make a living off of it, because they want to see subscribers. And so, yeah, if you can learn a skill that these bigger channels and these bigger TV shows can use, I think that's how you can see yourself breaking into it. And guess what? If you know how to run those cameras, you know how to edit, they'll pay you for it because you now have a skill that they need. And
Yeah.
so now you're making money doing it. And then before you know it, maybe you have that connection with one of them and they bring you on and you start sitting in front of a camera. And before you know it, you're doing it.
Great advice. Now,
So
does that mean I take that to mean you're not editing your own stuff?
no, no, no,
Smart man.
I
Smart
couldn't do
man.
I've tried it, it's not for me. And that's like when I kind of told you is like, that's why I did the taxidermy thing, because that was the one thing that was for me. I've tried to learn the editing stuff. I've tried to learn the filming stuff. Not to say I can't, and I'd like to. I was actually talking about that the other day. I want to, so that way I have that skill. But yeah, no, I don't edit or do any of that. I think I couldn't do it, man. Those guys are. It's insane how good some of these guys have gotten at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is
Pretty
insane. It
cool.
really is.
It's
The
pretty cool.
software is beyond me.
Oh, it's
Um,
nuts. Yeah, it's crazy.
but let's go ahead and jump into pops.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I hope you're not tired of talking about him at this
No,
point.
man, not at all.
But
Not at all.
we
It's
are in
a blessing.
Virginia, and that
Yep.
was an absolute Virginia giant.
Yeah.
And
A cool
man,
deer.
I've heard the story a few times now,
Yeah.
and it's just a fantastic story.
Absolutely.
Not
I
even
appreciate
just
that.
the buck, but it's just a fantastic
I
story.
appreciate that.
And basically, I'll give you a brief introduction and
Yeah,
let you take off
absolutely.
running with it.
Absolutely.
But you named the deer Pops,
Yeah.
obviously for a very specific reason that I'll let you get into.
Yep.
But like you were even waiting to like name a buck. You're not like one of
Yeah.
those guys that just like names bucks.
No, I try not to
So
be.
so kind of start there and tell us how all that unfolded.
Yeah. Yeah. And touch on the name thing. Yeah. I've got, now that I'm filming, I have to name them to some extent because it does help with the a little bit of the storyline of saying like, hey, this is the buck. But I kind of try to come up with goofy names. If I'm naming something, it's usually pretty weird. It's like, what was this guy talking about? But yeah, no, I try not. I don't really. I'm not a big namer, especially if it means something. So like with that, man, I've had deer on camera every year that were that big, whether it was just for a day or most of the times during the rut in Ohio, like a deer just comes through. But I've had a lot of really big deer on camera like that just for a week or so. And so, but yeah, I never named one until this. And yeah, I this is the first one I've ever gotten on early, where I found them in the summer, and had the permission, and then was getting pictures of him, and it seemed like I had a chance to kill him. So I figured that was a good one. And also, I just sometimes I get a gut feeling that it's going to work out, and I had that with him. And so yeah, I named him after my father who passed away in 2019. So actually, almost what is it, 2025? So 6 years. Yeah, 6 years from now. And so yeah, named him after him, and then it worked out from there. It was crazy, but it was a fitting deer to do it on too. It was a Virginia deer. My dad was born and raised in Virginia, grew up in Virginia, and then also just think killing a deer like that in Virginia was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure you don't want to give too much away, but can you at least tell the general area of
Yeah,
Virginia?
yeah, I'll say it's central Virginia, and most people who've looked it up know. I mean, it's the county of where it killed. It's pretty out there. But yeah, central Virginia. Maybe you might even consider it Southwest Virginia. So, but yeah, central Virginia, and I mean, I've not. You see them, and this is a deer. If we go back to the having discretion about a deer, like this deer's 100. It was 190 inches, and the only picture I ever saw of this deer, there's one picture. So that's a good deer when we look at bucks that we maybe want to target. That's a good one to target because it's not as known. Like it's not as, you know, personal. You don't have this big neighborhood of people that are posting it every day. So,
Right.
but yeah, no, it was, yeah, Central Virginia area. Yep.
And when you hunt a deer like that, I mean, you're
Yeah.
in the suburbs or urban setting,
Yeah.
but you still have to kind of approach it like any
Yeah.
other hunt in terms
I
of
do.
access
Absolutely.
and scent control and
And
all
my,
that
yeah,
stuff.
for me, that's everything still. Like a lot of people think you can kind of just go willy-nilly and throw it out the window. I treat it like it's the same no matter what. My access is always I try to have the right access. If I can access something from the bottom, if that's where I need to, I'll get permission from someone at the bottom to access it from the bottom. Sometimes you have no option, and you kind of have to risk it, and that's just a part of it, especially when you're hunting maybe an acre, 2 or 3 acres. So yeah, no, but scent control is huge for me. I've never been like some guys that just go crazy. I mean, they're like, I know dudes that will eat an apple in the tree just so their breath smells like an apple or something like that. I'm not doing that. But I'm a big play the wind, and then also uh like foot, like what's the right word I'm looking for? Like when you leave your scent behind. I don't know why I can't think of that word, but I always spray my boots down. I wear rubber boots, spray my boots down, and always make sure that's covered up. Ground sense, what I'm trying to think of. I try to keep my ground scent very minimum because these deer, people say, oh, well, these deer, pets. They're not. These deer are smart. They know where they've been messed with and where they haven't. And when they smell somebody, when you've got a place and you get down in the woods, those deer really, a lot of these places, they don't have people in the woods. A lot of these people will cut their grass and go inside. They're not walking in their woods. The amount of permission I've got where the person's like, I haven't walked back there in 20 years. Most places are like that. So those deer can tell. and they know when you're walking through those woods, leaving your scent behind, they know. So I try to keep my ground scent to a minimum. So that's a big thing for me is ground scent.
Yeah, I mean they are a conditioned animal, but
Yeah,
it's just they're playing under different ground rules than some of the wide open deer, but
exactly.
the instincts are still the same. And
It's
like you
still the
said,
same.
those parameters of I don't know if you want to call them safety parameters or
Yeah,
comfort zones.
yeah,
They're all established, but once you break that zone,
I would agree.
yeah,
They're on you, and I've had deer. I was just talking about it in the pod. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, a place that I hunted in Ohio, and there was a guy working on the barn back there every day. He's working on that barn, and you can bait. So we'd have corn out. So those deer would come into the corn. They'd probably see him every day. Well, this one day I'm hunting, and it's just a doe hunt. I'm not hunting a buck. So these are just does. You'd think the dumbest of the dumb. Not, this isn't a mature buck. This is a doe. And I'm sitting there, and these deer come from downwind. They usually don't come from this area, but they did. They came from downwind, and so this wind's blowing right at them. And I remember sitting in the tree, and these deer, they're kind of like walking, 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 and as soon as they get about 50 yards, they pick their head up and they start looking, and they're looking for my landowner where he's been working at on the barn, and I'm sitting 20 yards from the barn. And those deer, I mean, they're stretching their neck out to see if they can find him, and they were tripping out because he wasn't there, but they were smelling a human scent,
yeah,
and they would not come in, and they did not come in. And I had corn out. They did not come in. They wouldn't do it because they didn't see that something they're used to. They're still smelling it, but they're
yeah.
not seeing it, and that freaked them out. They didn't
Well,
like that.
not to sound hokey pokey, but you mentioned something earlier about having a gut feeling about
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
And we all have it. We all have
yeah,
the gut feelings, and I
yeah.
feel like the animals, I feel like they have them too.
I
You know,
think they do. I think they do.
yeah,
They know when something's going on, and I think people just see these videos, or sometimes you see these deer in backyards, and it seems like they don't care. Somebody drives a car by them, and they don't care. Well, that's because they've never, some of these, especially these mature bucks, have been alive 5, 6, 7 years. They've never once been messed with, in that situation. Um, but once you get back in those woods where they aren't used to smelling humans and seeing people, it's a little different. They get freaky, just like most of them.
yeah.
So
So back to pops.
yeah,
So if I remember correctly, it was still pretty early season when you
yeah.
got
It was the second day of the season. Yeah, that
yeah,
my third hunt of the year. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he had come in, he had been gone for like 10 days. And then I got what I thought was a picture of him, maybe about, if I can remember correctly, I believe it was maybe a week before the season. I think it was exactly a week. I got a picture of him at a place I hadn't really gotten a lot of pictures of him at. And it was just you could see him in the background, but it was a big frame. And I was like, I don't know of any other deer in here that looks like that.
yeah,
And so fast forward to, I think it was Thursday before the season. I got a daylight picture of him walking under my stand. And there were some white oaks. I had a lot of chestnut oaks, and then there were some white oaks right on the property line, kind of going into where he had been bedding at if he was over there. And so he would come through. He'd actually stop. I mean, he would stop right in front of my camera. There was one single white oak right there, and he'd stop right there. And I had multiple pictures of him. I mean, midday, mornings, evenings, and he'd stop right there and eat acorns for, a couple minutes before he kept moving. But I would assume that's where he was going. But yeah, it was the second day of the season that morning, and he came up out of this kind of thicker bedding area and came into these chestnut oaks. He was eating. I had always been told they don't really mess with them, the chestnut oaks, unless they have to. Well, he was eating on them, unless there was a white oak mixed in there somewhere. He was eating on his chestnut oaks, and then but he was slowly moving towards that white oak, and like I said, his bedding area that he would bed at, there's a point back there he would bed on, and so yeah, and just walked right by me at I think it was 10 yards maybe, going right to that white oak, and I'll guarantee you he would have walked if I wasn't hunting, he'd have come through, he'd have walked, he'd have probably stopped right in front of my camera, and he would have been eating on those white oaks, and then he'd have kept going. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
and he didn't go terribly far after you shot him.
No, he went farther than I thought he would. Most of these deer don't go that far, and I
Yeah,
think I do believe when you talk about sounds, you can get away with some stuff, sound wise, because I think these deer are just so used to hearing different stuff, and it's just not that weird for them. So a lot of times I think when shots, my theory is you shoot these deer and they might run 10, 15 yards most of the time. I think a lot of that is because the sound and stuff. Yeah, I don't think they really feel it. They might feel like something weird, but I think it goes
yeah.
through so fast. They're not really feeling it.
I
But I think,
also wonder, and forgive me if I'm saying
oh,
something
you're good.
stupid, but their comfort zones, and I mean, obviously they're used to
Yeah.
living in tighter
Yeah.
areas
Yeah.
versus some 200-acre farm
Yeah.
where they can just take off running.
Yep. Yep.
They may not want to take off running through
Yeah.
everybody's yard and expose
Exactly.
themselves.
Yeah.
They kind of want to
It,
stay.
that definitely could be something to there could be something to that as well, but I've noticed they just don't seem to run as far after shots. So he actually ran fairly far for most of the deer that I've shot. Most of the time I do not have to go off the property. They die on the property. If I have a 30 or 40 yard buffer, they'll die on the property. And I thought he did. And he got to the property line and he stopped and stood there for a little bit. And I thought he fell, but he actually kept going. He ran another 40-ish yards after that, I believe, through two
Yeah,
or three. It was two or three more properties after that he ran through.
yeah. I thought that was a. I think there's a lot of great lessons at the end of that story. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, congratulations on a remarkable
yeah,
buck.
I appreciate it.
Um, and folks, man, I'll include the YouTube link. It's a great
Yeah,
story.
absolutely.
Um, but for me, one of the highlights, other than the obvious stuff, was at the
Yeah,
end and that whole recovery process.
yeah,
The fact that he crossed onto land that you didn't have permission to go
yeah.
on,
I
and
did not.
but
Yeah.
he was close enough that you could see it.
Oh, I could. Yeah. I mean, there was at one point
Eh,
I did have permission on a
Yeah,
place. I got 5 yards from him or something like that, 10 yards from him. I mean, I could probably touch him with a stick, and I
yeah.
still didn't go get him.
Yeah, we all know what 99.999% of us would have done in that situation.
Gone got the deer.
Um,
Yeah.
a- and I, and just based on what little bit I've gotten to know you and watch you
Yeah.
and follow you, I don't know that the outcome would have been any different whether the camera was there or not. I don't think you would have treated it any differently.
No. And I'll give you once you finish your point, I'll give you some stuff as to why anyone here, film it or not, should not approach that any differently.
Yeah,
But if you want to continue your point.
but yeah, I think it's a I think it's something that you need to be applauded for. As a
Yeah,
first of all, just having those great ethics.
I appreciate it.
Um, because a lot of people kind of do what they see other people do.
Sure. Yeah.
They say, well,
Yeah.
if it's okay if they did it, it's okay if I do it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you went to those extra lengths to do it the right way,
Yeah.
especially, um, I'm you know I'm at a loss of words here, but kind of being in that hunting celebrity kind of
Yeah.
realm,
I know what
right?
you
Where
mean. Yeah.
where you have that pressure to perform,
Yes.
to produce results.
Yeah. But also do it
I've
ethically.
completely forgotten the gentleman's name that kind of just got busted for poaching in
Matthew
Kansas and
Jennings.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I certainly don't endorse what happened there,
Yeah.
but I'm not sympathetic to why it happens.
Sure. Sure.
So, like you said, to be the 1% of the 1%, to
Yeah.
once you get to that spot, it's an awful lot of pressure to stay there.
It is. This is a pretty good point, as I enjoy talking about this because not really many people know about it. Um, okay. You Lee and Drew sat us down at the beginning of the season before any hunting started, before they even officially brought us on, and they said, guys, if you're going to be a part of this, you have got to do this the right way. There's no other option. There is not. He said most people can push that. They can push it. Maybe they can stay kind of, oh, well, I did 99% right. So, if I go and retrieve it on another property, if I can see it, it's 5 yards over the line, not a big deal. Most people can do that. And no one will ever know. And it's, not even a part of the story, and they'll never get in trouble for it. It's whatever. But they told us you've got to do it 110% on the right side of the line, because if you do one thing wrong, it's over. Well, he said, there's all kinds of repercussions for that. And you don't want to be a part of it, a part of that. And so when that happened, then this is why I'm going to say this, and anyone who's listening, remember this, because you don't have to be filming to get in trouble. I did not, so I did all my stuff right. And that deer, so the next day it had been posted and everything. And the next day I get a trail camera notification, and there's two guys in the backyard area of where I shot this deer. And I'm like, man, that's weird. So I call the landowner, and the landowner says, oh, that was the game department. And they had been tipped off that someone had said I shot that deer in a park. This is what they've told me. Someone said that I shot the deer in the park, and that sorry, I got a call coming in. Did that black me?
No, no, I can still see you.
Okay. Sorry. That got messed up. So, but yeah, they had got a tip that that someone had shot the deer in the park, and they were investigating it. And so I called the game warden, and he's like, "No, you're good. We've checked you out." But point being is, it wasn't because I was filming that those guys checked me. They've checked me because I'd killed a really big deer, and someone had just called in and said, "Hey, uh, this big deer was killed. It was shot in a park." And they went directly to where I retrieved that deer, because they get a coordinate when you e-check those deer. Gives them a coordinate. They went directly to where I e-checked that deer, and they walked it all the way back to where I shot it. And they're looking for the normal stuff. They're looking for corn. They're watching the blood trail, making sure you did shoot it where it seems to be that you shot it. And we obviously confirmed all that. I said, "Hey, I've got it all on video." I said, "This is a tree I shot it in. You guys can check whatever." So we confirmed it, but they also checked with every landowner that deer crossed to see if I had asked for permission to retrieve that deer. And of course I had done that. And so every landowner, but if I wouldn't have done that, that would have been, and not because I'm filming, just because it was a big deer, that would have been a huge thing. That would have been all over the place. They would have
Yeah.
confiscated the deer, and I'd have gone through this whole thing with them. So it's important. Yeah, it's extremely important to do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, man, they can find stuff on you, and they will get you for it. And they tried to get me for it because someone had said that I did something that I didn't. Thankfully, I did have video proof that could prove that. But I mean, before I'd even showed them, before they'd even talked to me, they'd already seen that it was legit and there was nothing wrong with it.
Do you think any of that was influenced by the recent events with the Hollywood buck?
Probably, yeah, yeah. I think people probably a little more on edge with these city deer now. You saw this guy go in and poach that deer, and quite frankly, if he was a little bit smarter about it, he probably would have got away with it. He got away with two other ones,
Yeah.
and he was done with those. I mean, he sent those into Jeff at Star City. If
Yeah.
he would never sent that deer in, he probably never would have got caught, unless he just had a buddy who had ratted him out. So yeah, I think people probably are a little more on edge about it, and there's guys that understand, all these deer. There's usually a hunter that lives in the neighborhood, and there was hunters that lived in that area that actually wanted. I talked to a landowner who said, "I was this big deer back here, and I'm gonna try to hunt him." It could have been him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, they investigated it, and so it's important to do it the right way. I'm glad that came up because I like telling that part because nobody really knows that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it's important too.
yeah,
We get enough bad press,
yep, exactly.
as hunters, as an industry, and as a whole.
Yeah,
So, maybe it's because I'm just, kind of getting older now and I'm a fuddy duddy, but that kind of stuff really sticks out to me. I really,
yeah,
really hang my hat on that. And
yeah. Well, I
so,
appreciate that.
gave me a ton of respect
I
uh,
appreciate that.
for
Yeah,
you and all the guys without ever meeting you,
I
just,
appreciate it. Yeah, they've stressed it many times. You better do this thing the right way because you don't do it the right way, you're going to be in hot water real fast.
yeah,
And so yeah, I mean, we control everything we can control, and we do it. We get our we make we have to make sure we get all of our licenses, and we're held at a higher standard, being that we do have a camera on us, being that we're creating entertainment. Like, I think we're supposed to be held at a higher standard. Unfortunately, you get people like Matthew Jennings or any of these other guys that have been caught doing stuff,
yeah,
that don't do it. But yeah, I think we need to be held at a higher standard.
absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we kind of wrap this up, I'm curious for your perspective from insight. Where do you see this going in 5 years? Not
Yes.
just just like seek one with are you
Yeah.
just are
Yep.
you have any kind of ideas for like trying different things or different species or
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to hunt a mule deer. I've always wanted to hunt an elk. So I definitely am going to do that for sure. I'm a big turkey guy. I'm bad at turkey hunting, but I enjoy turkey hunting. So I'll do different stuff like that. I'd love to go down to Mexico to shoot one of those osculated ones. But as far as animals, man, I really enjoy whitetail. I don't have a ton of interest outside of whitetail. Elk, like I said, elk and mule deer would be fun. But I'm on and people might not like this. If I'm going on an elk hunt, I'm paying to go on an elk hunt. This is the way it's going to be. I refuse to do the DIY thing. I'm
yeah,
not going to put 2, 3 weeks of time into something that I've pretty much got no chance of doing. Now I'm not saying I won't do that eventually, but I
right.
want a couple hunts under my belt. So if I go with outfitter, I might, that's the way I'd like to do that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, whitetail for me is I'd like to just keep doing what I've been doing. Add some other states in, add a couple different places in, but yeah, keep I'd love to keep killing big deer in Virginia, keep killing big deer in Ohio. Those are kind of my two bread and butters right now. I want to add some different places in. So I've got some other hunts coming up this year that are whitetail. They brought me back. So I'm back with them. It seems to be last year was kind of it was a trial run for them. They just wanted to see how well it would do.
Yeah.
This one, it seems it's a bit more long term. This time it's kind of like, hey, you're with us now. So don't do anything dumb. So that's as long as I stay out of trouble and don't do anything dumb, man, they're gonna keep me around. So it's just fun. And I
That's
enjoy
awesome.
it. I enjoy talking with people like you and doing the podcast, interacting with different people on social media. I get DMs, a lot of DMs. So it's fun to talk to those people, and it's cool to hear about stories, just stories that I maybe inspired somebody or something. That's pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
Because I was in that position not that long ago. I was just a normal guy that took in the content as well. So
Yeah.
it's,
I mean,
it's
look,
pretty
I
cool.
mean, one video on TikTok and
Yeah,
here we are.
that's right. That's right. It's crazy how life works. So I
It's
tell
the
people,
new Cinderella story,
I
you know?
know, I know, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Speaking of social media, one final thought, I guess, is
yeah,
where can people find you? Where can they
yeah.
follow you?
Yeah, my Instagram's lethal but barely. That was a goofy name me and my buddy came up with when we were turkey hunting 4 or 5 years ago. So lethal but barely and you can just search my name; it'll come up
Yeah, I'll
on
include the
Instagram.
links too. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, Facebook, same thing. Just Jason Whitlow. It's Jason Whitlow on Facebook, but I don't really post. I mean, there's a TikTok. I think it's my taxidermy name. I don't really post on it. So, but if people want to keep up with me, yeah, the Instagram is the best way to do it. I'm on that pretty frequently. So, and I interact with people too. If you DM me, most it depends on the time of the year, but I try to get back with people. Sometimes I get flooded if I kill a buck or something, so it can
for sure.
take a little
Yeah.
bit. But if it's just a normal Saturday in the summer or something, you DM me, I'll probably respond. So
Well, outstanding. Well, Jason, man, thanks again for
yes, sir.
taking
I
time.
appreciate you.
I know it's just a busy time of year. You got a lot going on,
Yeah, we're rocking.
and
I'm excited. It's gonna be a good year.
yeah,
They're already out hunting, so
man,
there's hopefully some bucks down pretty soon. I think they're all in Kentucky right now. Lee just got back from another hunt. I'm not sure. I don't think he killed anything. So, but we should start going, and I'll be in the woods here. I'm still working, so I'll be in the woods at the end of the month. So I've got some bucks on camera. I'm excited about.
well, outstanding. I'm looking forward to seeing your continued success.
I
And
appreciate you.
as a fellow Virginian, I'm proud of the success you're having.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. I
certainly be
appreciate it.
cheering you on from the sidelines.
Yes, sir. Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, thanks again for your time, and look forward to
Absolutely.
having you again on again someday.
Absolutely. Yeah, anytime. I've told people this. Anytime you want me on, I'm obviously if it's deer season, I might be a little busy, but that don't mean I can't make time for it. So just reach out. Yeah,
Right on.
no issue. So
All
awesome.
right,
Thank you guys.
cool. Thanks again,
Appreciate
Jason.
you. Yes, sir.